medical doctors. They have the same liability standards. They're a licensed profession. Psychiatrists, same liability standards. They are a licensed profession. So why can't cops have that same standard, dear brother?
Because when I go to a doctor, my dear brother, I'm going to the doctor. The doctor's not dragging me away, and I'm kicking and screaming, not wanting to. No one wants to be arrested, my dear brother. Most people who get arrested don't want to be arrested. So there's going to be an interaction between the officer and the person being arrested by virtue of the fact that most people don't want to be arrested.
But I gotta
hold on, I'll let you talk. So the other part of it is Clarence Thomas, of all people, the person that you guys call names, is the one who is pushing loudly about qualified immunity. And he's pushing back against it. Forget the origin of a thing, because I know everything from your standpoint goes back to slavery, racism, or white supremacy. But
no,
the fact
not everything, dear brother.
Hold on, but Clarence Thomas doesn't like qualified immunity. And the reason why most conservatives don't like it as a premise is because it doesn't tie into conservatism and the idea of small government and freedom. However, that being said, when you talk about limited qualified immunity, it's still going to expand. I'm not saying that's why Republicans are against the Georgia Reform Act. That's the Democrats watered it down. I think if you take it out completely, it will pass. I think that's the hang up based on what I'm hearing from people. But I also believe this, the George Floyd Act, just like body cams, when you guys got all excited about body cams, when Eric Holder put forth that law, right now, it means that George Floyd Act will be nothing towards police brutality. It's not gonna stop it. Bad police are gonna still be bad police. You'll be able to get paid off of it because you'll be a newly minted lawyer. So you'll be able to collect $1 million settlement out of it, but it's not gonna change anything. Bad police are bad police. We need to get rid of them completely.
All right, so let me respond to that. Number one, this is an industry standard. If you want to get rid of bad actors within a particular industry, you have to enact new rules and you have to enforce them. Or you have to dogmatically enforce the rules that you have not enforced. There's a cultural dynamic that has to transform in order for your conclusion to even happen. So that's one. Let me go back to a dynamic connected to police reform in America. You're right on the sentiment that the vast majority of Republicans, Republican voters in particular, are for police reform. As a matter of fact, 96% of Americans are for some level of police reform. It is the one item, one of the very few items, where everybody is pretty much in agreement that reform needs to take place. However, the police unions don't want reform. The police officers do not typically want reform, even though the sentiment is expressed by the majority of Americans. You don't see a congruent reaction inside of the industry of policing that matches the sentiment of the average voter. That is a problem, dear brother, is it not?
Of course it is. Of course it is. We pay their salaries, so of course it is a problem. But I think we can get to police reform if we can have a normal conversation around it and not, I would say, Republicanize or demonize the teams of negotiating.
So let's do this. We only got 1 minute.
I think we'll get to police reform.
All right, we got 1 minute left. So out of the George Floyd Act, the Policing and Accountability Act, aside from the qualified immunity standard, which by the way has a lot of ambiguity, different ways you can do it, case by case basis, et cetera. We know it doesn't eliminate qualified immunity, it's still there. Set that aside. Do you have a problem with anything else in the bill?
Not really. The only thing is the list, the master list of that, the database.
I think that's one of the most transparent things about the bill. Go ahead.
I love that part of the bill. My problem is I want it to only be when an officer is actually found guilty or found punishable by grand jury, judge, whatever. I don't want it to be a list of officers who've been accused by some perp that he beat him up in a jail cell one time and now he's in some database. That's my only concern. I know what databases look like when they start off with all good intentions, and this is a good intention. I love the database idea. I just want to make sure it doesn't tie up accusations and mix accusations up with actual behavior.
Wait a minute, brother. Okay, so here's my response to that.
Because I know 99% of all police officers are good people.
All right, so hell no, I definitely don't believe 99%, number one. But let me make it very clear. Less than 1% of the civilian population will ever give the police some level of aggression during an arrest, less than 1%. Also, if you don't want them to have a database that includes the charge or what someone has said, remember, your charges are still on your record. My charges are still on mine. Like whatever we're charged with is still on our record, even if we've never been convicted. So why is it, dear brother, when a civilian charges a cop, you don't want that on their record?
Because I know there's a financial incentive for the civilian to charge the cop. There's a financial
incentive for the cop to charge and overcharge black folk.
Well, that's not the cop. The cop doesn't necessarily charge you. The DA or the prosecutor charges you.
You know that. You know that. When I go, the ability to create the charging docket from the go.
And when I go to court and I say, yes, Your Honor, what's it? Oh, you're fined $200. I pay the $200 and I keep it moving. Right. It's off my thing. I'm just saying that's my only problem. I'm not saying I'm against this. I'm saying that's my only issue.
All right. They can see your background. I want to see theirs. I appreciate you, dear brother. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My brother. Love you, brother.
Love you back, man. All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
Universal health care, raising the minimum wage. If you want clean water, clean air, clean food, keep going. If you are a doer of the deed, I want you to stand up to your feet right now. We have courage enough, conviction enough, people power enough to stand up and do what is right for ourselves. I am unbought and unbought.
Hello and welcome to Unbossed. We are so glad that you are here, and helping me to hold this down on this fine Friday is none other than Mayor Robinson. Mayor, how are you? And he is a new Rebel HQ contributor. Mayor, so glad you are back with us, and tell us what is going on over at Rebel HQ and you.
Well, listen. Usually when you hear about Rebel, it's the wrong kind, right? But over there, we're making all the right noise, making sure people understand that it's a space where you can find information that's deeper. We focus usually on a few topics or one topic in a quick 5-minute skit. And I'm enjoying my time over there. I put out about 12 videos and it's pretty good. I'm enjoying myself, and it's always wonderful to be back with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, you're a regular co-host, so that is it. But I'm so glad you're over at Rebel HQ. Your voice is so needed, which is why you're exploding over there. We're not surprised over here at Unbossed. So glad you're back, Mayor. And today, the mayor and I will be talking about how Republicans have targeted Representative Ilhan Omar, this time ousting her from her spot on the Foreign Affairs Committee. This is kind of like a tit for tat they got going on over there. What are they, toddlers? I don't want to insult toddlers, so I won't even say that. Let me take that back. And George Santos claims to have learned his lesson about lying. It took him this long to learn a lesson about lying. Yep, that's what the man said. Can we believe him? Probably not. He probably lying about learning his lesson about lying, but we will see. And a deep dive into this country's obsession with footage of Black Americans being murdered. Yeah, it is an obsession. So don't forget to subscribe. If you are not a subscriber, please do that. Call up your friends and your frenemies. Let them know that this is one of the best hours of their day right here on Unbossed. So take a look at this.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced? I am an American who was sent here, by her constituents.
I am an American that was sent here by her constituents. You better go ahead on and make that plain, Representative Ilhan Omar. So what you just watched, she is laying it down. She represents portions of Minnesota. She's defending herself in the face of having weak-kneed GOP members oust her from the Foreign Affairs Committee. Take a look at this headline. The House GOP voted, and the results are what you might expect. Representative Ilhan Omar kicked off committee after party line vote in the House. And the GOP is using the mask that Ilhan Omar is anti-Semitic because of her criticisms of Israel's far-right government. That is all she has done, and many others have done that too, even many members of the Jewish community. But they were silent when neo-Nazis, come on now, let's break this down for you. Let me dress this up for you. They were silent when neo-Nazis descended on Charlottesville, Virginia, chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Where were these folks then as they killed Heather Heyer? But Representative Omar represented her perspective on why she believes the GOP voted this way. Let's hear what she had to say.
This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to be counted as Americans? There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim. It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident that former President Donald Trump led a birther movement that falsely claimed he was born in Kenya. Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa.
Yep, that's right there. And then Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez stood up for Representative Omar in a powerful fashion. Let's take a look at this.
I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America.
Well, you better lay that on down. I think Minister Malcolm X once said one of the most hated, despised, unprotected. I'm paraphrasing him, but he laid it down. One of the most unprotected groups on the face of this earth is Black women. And let us quickly put up the tweet from Crystal Ball, who was on the show just yesterday, kicking at Ilhan from Minnesota off the Foreign Affairs Committee is a genuine loss. She's one of the most courageous critics of US foreign policy failures and hypocrisy. And I need to amen what Crystal Ball tweeted there. And then Representative Omar and Representative Ocasio-Cortez got it exactly right with their analysis of the GOP targeting women of color, especially. Take a look at this.
These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country. Now, you can say what you want, but get a list of all of the statements they've made. And all I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave, and you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them.
Ilhan Omar doesn't deserve committees. She absolutely does not deserve committees. She can represent radical Islam in the United States Congress.
Citizen. How many people think she's anti-Semitic? Let's show. How many people?
Absolutely something wrong with these people, Mayor. There's a lot to unpack there.
I'm sitting over here as a black man with 7 black sisters, and I'm furious. I'm furious, not just because of my sister's sake, but because of my sister's sake. And when I say sister, I want to expand that to all black women, especially those who are serving in this racist Congress, where we see what we know. As long as Gozar, as long as Marjorie Taylor are in Congress and have committee assignments, you cannot say that this is not targeting of black women. You cannot say that when we know that these congressmen not only said and threatened other Congress members, but they also participated in Nick Fuentes' white nationalist convention, spoke there in support of all of the stuff. I almost said something. All of the stuff he stands for, all of the nastiness. So we got to be honest and be as loud as AOC and Ilhan Omar was. Here's why I'm upset though. When it's you speaking up for yourself, it comes off as if you're selfish or you're standing alone. I didn't see enough white people. I didn't see enough men defending these sisters. It should not be the work of them to defend themselves when we see the status quo attacking them in this manner. It is as American as apple pie for this country to attack black women. We know the long history of that, the long suffering of sisters, but it cannot be their voices the only ones screaming that it's wrong.
Come on, Mayor, lay that out. I'm sitting up here like, yes, I'm ready to jump out my seat and run around the room. I have certainly, faced that, lots of abuse and criticism and find myself having to defend myself. You're right, where were the allies and where were the brothers to stand up and put these people in their place in solidarity? Boom, Mayor, that's a word right there. We could have a whole show about that. So, but when it comes to the predominantly white male domestic terrorists who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th, put up this headline, shall we? Peaceful patriots, months after January 6th insurrection, GOP members of Congress attempt to recast events of deadly attacks, a revisionist history. That's what they wanted to do. And to the GOP and to some Democrats, if we're being honest, this definition of who gets to be American is nothing more than white nationalist ideology. And we're seeing it continue to play out time and time again in the 21st century. This country, these United States of America, folks have still not learned their lesson. But let's give Representative Omar the final word with this tweet. My critique of our foreign policy, Israel's policy toward Palestinians, or that of any foreign nation will not change. As a person who suffered the horrors of war and persecution, my advocacy will always be for those that suffer because of the actions of government. Amen to that, Representative Ilhan Omar. Yes, she did that. Now, on to George Santos, if in fact that is his real name. He did claim that he learned his lesson. Take a look.
And I've learned my lesson, and I can guarantee you that from now on, anything and everything is always going to be above board. It's largely always been above board. I'm just going to go the extra step now to double check, cross-reference everything.
So let me get this straight. You a flaming liar. You said you learned your lesson. You're gonna be above board. And then you sidetrack and say, well, but mostly what I've been saying is above board. Man, you're lying right there. You can't even hold to the truth. Like for 3 seconds, you started lying when you said you wasn't gonna lie no more. That is what you heard from this man. But we'll see how long. It didn't last long. It's over already because he lied in that interview. So this comes after months of damaging disclosures that he lied about almost every aspect of his life. Let us put up this list to remind you what the man has lied about that we know about so far, where he went to high school and college, working on Wall Street, where his money came from, founding an animal charity, swindled a disabled veteran whose dog was dying. Yeah, the man went that low. Mayor, how low can you go? Oh, his mother's death, his grandmother being a Holocaust victim, having employees who died in the post shooting, and being, as he said, Jewish. Mayor.
Listen, Santos is a rebuke of the Republican Party and their embracing of lies, and also Main Street media refusing to call Donald Trump a liar and instead creating something new, a word untruth that was never used, and it was never in our zeitgeist until Donald Trump came about, because people said it was impolite to say lie. Donald Trump was a lie. The Republican Party are liars, and Santos is the birth of the baby that they created. Listen, here's what I would say. The idea that power is all Republicans is on display every time I hear or see Santos' name. They care not about anything that's integrable or anything that is truthful. They just care about numbers so that they can have majority at any cost by any means. The fact that, like you pointed out, this man couldn't even get through that sentence without lying. He couldn't even get to that sentence without lying. Lets us know that that statement means nothing. Oh, by the way, he was doing it on a fake news station. That's their word, fake news. OAN is not a reputable news station, and they want to be the only place that airs such a ridiculous amount of information, such as giving Santos a sit-down interview. He's yet to answer any questions from any real media because he knows he will be put to the fire and the truth will be coming out, and it won't be coming out of his mouth.
That's it, Mayor, all the way. But you know what? Unfortunately, not everybody thinks that Santos is bad. In a sarcastic monologue, you have Tucker honed in on the petty lies told by Santos, ignoring the litany of more serious claims against him. Take a look at this.
George Santos told other people out loud, and CNN can exclusively confirm this, that he had a volleyball scholarship, perhaps the most coveted credential in collegiate sports. But he didn't. It was all a facade. It was a tissue of lies constructed to deceive the American people. There was no volleyball scholarship. There was not a single dollar of volleyball scholarship. George Santos made it all up out of whole cloth, out of thin air.
Tucker. And this man gets paid millions of dollars for this bull. Team, can we just put up the list of lies just one more good time, just one more quick time? This volleyball scholarship nonsense, and far too many of his viewers are going to believe what this man said. These are the lies that the man told, where he went to high school and college, working on Wall Street, where his money came from, founding an animal charity. He swindled a disabled vet whose dog was dying. Put up the next one. His mother's death, his grandmother being a Holocaust victim, having employees who died in the post-shooting, and being Jewish. The man is alive, and there are a whole bunch of other host of lies that he has told. He's being investigated. Tucker, get a grip. Please, for the love of God, get a grip. We want you to wrap your mind around this story and others. We'll be right back. We're gonna give you the time to do that.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem
problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Today is the day, David Sirota. We've been promising that all week. David Sirota joins Jink tonight on The Conversation. That is at 5:30 p.m. ET time and 2:30 p.m. PT time on tyt.com/live. And you don't want to miss the watch list with J.R. Jackson at a new time starting on Monday, February the 6th. They'll be live weekdays right after this show. You wanna watch that. And then we got Ben Carrillo on The Breakdown. Check out Ben. You don't wanna miss Ben lays it down. Don't wanna miss. And then we have Dr. Richie on Sirius XM. Listen to Dr. Richie, host of Indisputable on TYT, on his new show on Sirius XM, the Dr. Rashad Richie Review on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Find him on Sirius XM Urban News. Now to my absolute favorite part of the show. Let's go to our comments. We're starting with our TYT members. Vicky, hello, Vicky, darling. So how are we getting Nina into the Oval Office? Vicky, I didn't see that one coming. Hey, Mayor, always good to see you and Nina. It is. We are a great team. And on Twitch, Siscat, love Mondale with a whole bunch of exclamation points. Mayor, your fan base is here, baby, on Twitch. And Overseer Dixon, hey, Overseer Dixon, happy Friday to you. The senator and the mayor, what a treat. And this week, hell yeah, hello, somebody. Go ahead on, Overseer. I think so too. And on YouTube, Super Chat, Griffin, hey Griffin, yay, Nina and Mondale making my Friday great again with a smiley face. Oh, y'all bringing a smile to my face and also to the face of the mayor. We appreciate each and every one of you. We could not do what we do without you. So thank you so much for your support of us, for your support of the show, and for your support of the network. Love you, love you, love you. Take a look at this.
You know what stood out to me on Friday night as I, like many of you at home, watched the videos of the brutal police assault on 29-year-old father, son, and amateur photographer Tyree Nichols in Memphis. Tyree Nichols, who died in hospital 3 days later on January the 10th. The moment where he called out to his mother, screamed her name again and again as they beat him. But I, for one, am fed up with having to play videos of black men being beaten by police, being assaulted on tape to prove their humanity to the rest of us, to prove that what so many of them have to go through almost every day in this country at traffic stops is a racist, violent outrage.
Yeah, Mehdi is absolutely right. I'm just getting stirred up. You know, it really takes a certain level of pain for a grown man to call out for his mama. Yeah, a certain level of pain that is not recognized in this country when it comes to black people and particularly black men. And columnist Karen Atta of the Washington Post and Charles M. Blow of the New York Times addressed this directly. In an op-ed titled "Tyree Nichols' Death is America's Shame," Charles states the following: "The spectacle of a televised countdown to the showing of the video in which Tyree Nichols was savagely beaten by Memphis police officers doesn't just theorize Black death. It is a damning indictment of American perversion. Good God Almighty. He goes on. It was horrific as promised, but unfortunately not singularly so. It was instead yet another data point in a long line of videos showing the torturing of Black bodies by the police. It was more snuff porn with Black victims in a country becoming desensitized to the violence because of its sheer volume. And then Charles breaks it down even further. America and the world had the realization that police violence was a problem, and then it simply walked away before the work was done and the war was won. Mayor, I'm telling you, I got tears welling up in my eyes right now. Charles Blow laid it out, Mehdi laid it out, so many other people. I mean, we could do this for a whole week, just talk about nothing but this, but that hit hard.
Yeah, listen, my only pushback with Brother Blow's comment is that the world is becoming desensitized. The world, America is already desensitized to Black death and Black pain. The long suffering of Black people is well documented. Consider this, sister. Since 2017, the United States police, different police departments around this country has killed 1,353 Black people, mostly Black men, but not all Black men. Now, 1,353 Black people have been murdered by police since 2017. At the height of lynching, 1882 to 1968, they killed 3,500 people, Black people, mostly Black men, but not all Black men. So that means at the height of lynching, America was averaging about 42, 41 Black people being lynched a year. Right now, we are averaging 270 Black people being killed by cops a year. That's more than 558% increase of the lynching of Black people. So any of us sitting around acting naive about the fact that policing Black people has got better is being naive, because that institution is as peculiar as the strange fruit that our sister Billie Holiday was singing about when we were swinging from trees and being advertised. That countdown he talked about now is videos, but the media of that day was newspaper, and they advertised lynching way back then. And they took pictures and body parts of Black people. 1% of the people then were challenged and in court and sentenced, and 1% of police officers now are challenged and sentenced for the deaths of Black people. America ain't moved, and if it did, it's in the wrong direction as it pertains to feeling anything about Black death at its institutions.
You better say that, Mayor. We should do an explainer video on this. This is disheartening, but they don't care. You know, even when Ella Baker once said, "We who believe in freedom should not rest," but there was something she said before that. She said, when the killing of white women's sons become just as important as the killing of Black women's sons, then we're gonna see some action. The reason why we don't see action, because it is Black bodies, both men and both women. I mean, it is just absolutely gut-wrenching what is happening in this country. And then in Karen's op-ed, the endless video loop of Black death is doing more harm than good. She addresses that lack of action following these deaths. In his 2014 essay, Nothing Left, the political scientist Dr. Adolph Reed Jr. described what he saw as the political impotence of the left. It lacks focus and stability. You better go ahead on, Dr. Reed, he wrote. Its meteor is bearing witness, demonstrating solidarity. The endless stream of videos of Black people, usually men, being brutalized by police has me meditating on Reed's work. She goes on the right, hashtag Blue Lives Matter and the Back the Blue movement rose in direct opposition to Black Lives Matter, arguing that attacks against police were hate crimes. On the left, the Biden administration has increased police funding even as white liberals have winked to the Black community. And you know what? How could we forget this? Take a look.
For those who wish to, we will now kneel for our moment of silence.
Really? Because see, black people get symbolism and we get no substance. See, symbols do matter, but some substance need to follow that symbolism, especially if you're an elected official. And then they got the pure unadulterated gall to kneel with kente cloth. They don't even know what the kente cloth even stands for. But you got black people cheering that on, and liberals, neoliberals saying, oh my God, that was such a beautiful thing. This is their resume. They haven't done much of anything to change material conditions through public policy. Now, Karen points back to Dr. Reed Jr.'s poignant essay. The left operates with no learning curve, Reed writes. It long ago lost the ability to move forward under its own steam. Indeed, we are forced to endure videos of Black death again and again, not only because the GOP thwarts every effort at meaningful change, but because white liberals have run out of political ideas or the power to fundamentally transform policing. And here is another overlooked point. How are the graphic deaths of Black people acceptable to consume, especially when white death, yes, the police kill white people too, gets nothing like this treatment? I can't help feeling that these hellish loops only compound public desensitization to Black death and are doing more to harm it. Oh my God, Mayor.
Listen, Brother Reed was spot on in his critique of the left. The left is as culpable as the right. The right, of course, we know has already stated that their stance is anti-Black. But doing nothing also puts you in that field, in that column for me. The idea that you can kneel with kente cloth and not have kente cloth policies. Where's your policies of unity? Where's your policies of fixing the systems that are ailing our communities in a manner so that we can watch more Black death on TV, on regular primetime news, than in any Showtime flick? This is absolutely disgusting. This is also disgusting and a result of Black faces in all the wrong places. Black faces been elected, but only elected for themselves and not our communities. Representation is not enough. It's not enough. Putting on a kente cloth and kneeling is not enough. Let me see policies that have the impact of kente cloth and the meaning of that cloth and all of those colors and what they mean for us. Where's the equity in our lives? It does not bear fruit in their policies. I'm talking about white liberals. And when I say white liberals, I'm including the Black faces that are not standing up for our communities, that applaud this shenanigans. Where are the policies that move us past the point where Black death is as much part of your morning intake as cornflakes?
Ooh, there it is, Mayor. I mean, you laid it. And two people, in our line of heroes and freedom fighters really critiqued and really defined who white liberals really are. And that was the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Minister Malcolm X. And Dr. King even went as far as that, regrettably, he had to lay it out that most white people are racist. That white supremacy is supreme in this country. But they don't want to talk about the radical King, and Minister Malcolm X laid it out too. I'm absolutely disgusted. Mayor, we're gonna do an explainer video about the history of policing in this country, what it means. And we're just gonna break it down for people, but I'm very sad, and I've been sad. I mean, I ain't been right since this happened, honestly. And the microaggressions that Black people have to deal with, the anguish that we have to deal with all the time and still have to operate, the psychological burdens that we bear on a regular basis and still carry out everything else that we are obligated to do. We love this country more than anybody else and get treated worse than anybody else. There was a funeral for Tyrese Nichols, as we all know, and the vice president was invited to the funeral by the Nichols family, and she delivered a brief eulogy. And she also made an impassioned plea for reforms, which I agree with her. We need some reforms of the bill named for George Floyd, which this Congress, they've done nothing since then either. Let's take a look at this.
I was, as a senator, as a United States Senator, a co-author of the original George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And as Vice President of the United States, we demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it. And we should not delay, and we will not be denied. It is non-negotiable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the vice president on that. It should have been done in the 117th Congress when Democrats had all the power. But that's just me. Now, the funeral was held on Wednesday for Nichols at the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee. And this is Tyre Nichols. Let's put up his picture. Don't let it be forgotten that he was murdered. Tyre Nichols died on January the 10th after being beaten by Memphis Police Department officers during a January 7th traffic stop. And videos of the attacks that killed him have dominated the news since before they were released. Let's take a look at those responsible for Tyre's death. All 5 police officers, black police officers. And then we don't want to forget this person either, who they hid for a very long time. Here's another officer that was engaged. So we got it. But the point here is specifically what the vice president said, which I do agree with. Let's put this up. I was a senator. As a United States senator, a co-author of the original George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and as vice president of the United States, we demand that Congress pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Joe Biden will sign it, and we should not delay, and we will not be denied. It is non-negotiable. Okay, hooray. Let's put up this headline. Tyre Nichols' mother urges Congress to pass George Floyd Justice and Policing Act after her son's fatal beating. Because change has not come, why has it taken so long? Sometimes we get so accustomed, Mayor, of people who got the power standing up acting like they don't have the power. And that's what I take issue with. I want to see full-fledged lobbying and the use of the bully pulpit and the power that both the presidency and the vice presidency holds, instead of that power acting as though it is helpless. It is not. This should have been done. So in agreement with everything that she said, let's see how much of their political clout they're gonna put on the line to get this passed when they could have done it in the last Congress.
And I think that's the issue I have with the vice president. How do you skip? You go 2020, you had a statement about the George Floyd Policing Act. 2020, April 2021, you say something to Congress about they need to pass it. And then we wait till another death before you demand it, before it becomes non-negotiable. Why wasn't it non-negotiable, not after Tyre, but before Tyre's death? Why wasn't it non-negotiable 1,353 black souls ago? This idea that you can say this in this moment doesn't ring true when we haven't seen the fight behind this administration to pass George Floyd Act. Stop putting it in election cycles, and we are in the 2024 election cycle where you can use us as a volume point. You had a meeting last week, Madam Vice President, with black men to tell them how to talk to other black men about democratic policies, not to listen. And some of us who are less, acquired in those spaces weren't invited to those meetings, because you can't tell me how to talk to black men about issues that are killing us. You can't tell us that something is non-negotiable when you haven't been at the negotiating table for almost 3 years. That ain't how we negotiate. That ain't how you fight undeniably for our rights, for our lives. So this idea that you can sit at the funeral is one thing. Let's see the work and plans behind it. You can't tell me that it is a non-negotiable when you took money, COVID money, when we saw more black men die than anybody else from COVID, and give more money to support police officers during COVID with COVID funds than you did with black men in our communities. I am not convinced. It sounds nice at a funeral when all of us are in black, but what are you doing today to show me it's non-negotiable?
Come on, Mayor, come on. And that's my point. And to the black community, stop being so damn gullible. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and being complicit in our own demise. Where was this fire? George Floyd's mama wanted the same thing. Sandra Bland's mama wanted the same thing. Their whole string of mamas and daddies who wanted the same thing, but yet here we are again. Action and no more excuses. How much of the firepower of those two offices are they gonna put on the line to make sure that this is done? And even then, that still is not going to be enough. That is just the beginning. Stop militarizing the police. Stop giving more funding to police departments. Start giving more funding on the social justice side of the ledger. Jesus, Mary and Joe. This is a Black Jesus moment. Yeah, it is. I'm with you. I'm over the whispering of the sweet nothings. I'm with Janet Jackson on this one. What have you done for me lately?
Ever. What have you done for us ever as it pertains to policing, right? I feel your fire and it's just. This is the righteous indignation that caused Jesus to flip tables, to curse his disciples as they slept when he was crying, right? They slept while he was weeping blood. The Black community has been weeping blood from our eyes for centuries about policing, about racial targeting. And all we get from our supposedly representation in Washington, D.C. and at the state level and local levels too, is the same thing. More police and this idea of public safety. Well, if the public was safe, Tyree wouldn't be in a grave.
There it is.
If the public was safe, Black people wouldn't be overrepresented in those who are killed by police officers. And I'm talking about overwhelming. We're a small percentage of the population, but a majority, if you look at it, those who are in prison, over sentenced, over tried, and all things on the negative side of this social marker, we make up those numbers. And that is not by mistake. It's by the grand design of the United States of America's policing apparatus.
That's it, it's on purpose. It's not by accident. And I like to say, Mayor, from the streets to the courts, this entire legal system is corrupt as hell. That's the entire thing. We'll be back after this. I sigh deeply.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
Walking the dog on the White House lawn, would that be?
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
Welcome back to Unbossed. Ooh, the mayor and I, we going really deep today, really. Let's go to our TYT members to settle the room. Neoliberal, Hoover, hi Hoover. Neoliberals have no problem showing their smiles to black women when they got their votes, but look the other way when black mothers call for meaningful legislation. Hoover, you better say that. Underline it, underscore, message in a bottle, exclamation point. On a train, yeah, you absolutely right about that. And on Twitch, Ripper, both Dems and GOP offer nothing but lip service. Amen to that. Both parties, lip service. And Rosa, powerful show, Senator and Mayor. We thank you. And on YouTube Super Chat, Jason, hey Jay, the Civil War never ended. It just turned cold. Ooh, Jason. That is a word. You better say that. That's a word. Thank you all for your comments. We couldn't get to them all, but we appreciate you. You know we do. Thank you for your support of this show and for the TYT network. So yesterday we talked about the Super Bowl 57, making history with two black quarterbacks. We about to bring a little lightness to the show right now, being the first to start the big game. Well, now there is more history in the making. Take a look. What you just watched was Philadelphia Eagles sports and performance coach Autumn Lockwood running drills with players before last week's NFC Championship game. With the Eagles winning, they're on to the Super Bowl where Autumn is making history. Coach Autumn, put some respect on her name. Super Bowl 2023, Eagles assistant Autumn Lockwood set to become first black woman to coach at game. And that's right, the first black woman ever to coach in the Super Bowl. Katie Sowers was the first woman to coach in the Super Bowl, doing so as an offensive assistant for the 49ers in 2020. Autumn becomes, Coach Autumn that is, becomes the first black woman, and we love to see it. Let's put up this tweet from the University of Arizona Athletics. Trailblazer at Arizona soccer letter winner Autumn Lockwood, a sports performance coach with the Eagles, will become the first black woman, baby, capitalize that, to ever coach in the Super Bowl. Mayor, what say you?
I think this is a beautiful thing, seeing this sister, Coach Lockwood, out there doing what's necessary. People forget that you see these athletes out there running and wondering how they could take so much. It's all about the performance, right? Like what are you doing to prepare? How are you stretching your body to ensure that nobody's being injured in this game? And it's all her job. This falls on her. So I think that's wonderful that a Black woman is preparing these Black men, mostly Black men, to stay healthy throughout this 45 minutes or hour long game. So I'm super excited that this sister is at the top of the top and coaching what is probably the champion, the next Super Bowl champion. So I'm super happy about that, indeed.
I am too, and all the hurdles she had to literally jump to get to where she is right now. And listen, Coach Autumn, that's it. That's her first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Coach is her first name, because it really took a lot for her to be there. And she is blazing a trail for other Black women and other women of color to come right there, right behind her. I'm elated, Like, I wasn't gonna watch the Super Bowl because my team, the Browns, they ain't in it. So I had no use for it. But baby, now we got 2 Black quarterbacks doing the thing. And then we got Coach Autumn. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be all up on the Super Bowl this year.
Indeed, we see Black women leaving their fingerprint all over the NFL. One, they birthed the men that are leading it, right? And then second, we also
stay right there, man. Don't go nowhere. Let's rest right there. They birthed the men.
They birthed the men, right? And then also, like, of the 6 women coaches, 4 of them are Black women in the NFL. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very big deal. Go ahead on, Coach Autumn. We will be watching that. Now on to the backbone. So today, the mayor and I are gonna go a little deeper with the backbone. We are honoring and lifting up a crusader, a investigative journalist, a freedom fighter, somebody who called this country out on its lynching of Black people. And that is none other than Ida B. Wells Barnett. That is her. So we want you to take a look at this.
Exposing the horrors of racism in the American South wasn't easy, but investigative journalist Ida B. Wells made it her mission. Ida was born into slavery in 1862. After the Civil War, her family gained their freedom. Ida came of age during Reconstruction, a period of hope.
Yes, ma'am. And despite losing her parents and one of her siblings to the yellow fever epidemic, Wells endured these hardships, pushing on towards her calling of becoming a prolific writer, a journalist, and the first woman co-owner of a major newspaper. Take another look at this.
In 1889, Ida bought a share in the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight, becoming the first female co-owner and editor of a Black newspaper in the United States. Her goal was to create material about Black people for Black people. On March 9, 1892, a racist white mob lynched Ida's friend Thomas Moss and 2 of his colleagues. Thomas had run a successful grocery store, which the white people found threatening.
Yeah, nothing has much changed. Ida B. Wells, she rattled the status quo by exposing the real reasons behind lynchings in the South and dispelled the myth that white supremacists were using to orchestrate, not just orchestrate, to orchestrate, carry out lynchings of Black men. They said that Black men were rampant in raping white women. None of that was true. And Ida B. Wells exposed the truth. Take a look.
Motivated by the horrific murder of her friend, Ida channeled her fear and anger into her work and started a crusade against lynching in America. It made Ida a target. When she wrote an editorial arguing that white women could, in fact, be attracted to Black men, challenging a key myth that racists used to justify their actions, a mob burned down her office, forcing Ida to flee to the north. There, Ida continued to raise awareness about the extent of lynching in America, something many people in the North simply did not know about. She documented 728 lynching cases between 1884 and 1892, wrote pamphlets to share her findings across the country, and in 1922, publicly supported an anti-lynching bill that went before Congress.
And I mean, the courage, Mayor, that it took for Ida B. Wells to do that. I mean, just riveting. And we don't have people who don't face some of the same threats in a similar way that even have the courage that she had in her pinky. They don't have that type of courage, but she really changed the game.
Yeah, I wish, and that's that the piece we just saw is powerful talking about this sister, but it's still lacking, right? It's still not enough to talk about her long resume and her commitment to Black excellence. They called her an anti-lynch activist, she was. They call her an co-owner of a newspaper, and she was. But they forget so much what it meant to be a feminist back then, a Black feminist, and how she was targeted, not just by white people and white mobs, but she was also targeted by sometimes even people on our side. Black civil rights people at that time were against her because she was so outspoken about the truth of what it takes to be for our people. Also, I think it's important, we can call it a white mob, but it does a disservice if you live out the fact that it was sheriff deputies that rode that electric car train down there to help kill her friends, right? It was the sheriff department that allowed the taking of the owner of People's Grocery that was competing with the white grocery store right across the street and doing just as good, if not better, which is the real reason all of this happened, right? It was the sheriff deputies that opened that police station that let them be taken from those jails and taken down the street and be shot at the rail yard. All of this had something to do with the fire that was lit in Ida, not to mention she was born in slavery. Let's get to the fact about what white people were using lynching as a tool to say they were protecting white women from rape of Black men. Now, the true power structure in the South was white men. All of the power in this time was white men. So the idea that Black men were raping white women doesn't ring true. And it also excludes the fact that we know the danger that Black women face. Whenever white men wanted to take a Black woman, they did it. And where were the lynching of white men for raping Black women? It didn't exist. So Ida was saying something different and louder, even in the words that she didn't say when she talked about white women being attracted to Black men.
Come on.
Spoke to a different problem that white men had, and she warned them. In one of her writings, she actually said, white men ought to be careful saying
yes, she did.
About your Black or your white women because it may say something. Right? And that's when white people said her living, her existence was the patience of white Southern whites, and people should kill her. That was the threat before her place was burned down. Those threats sound similar to when you listen to what our politicians are saying about Black people, our history in Florida, our history in Arkansas, and what the governors are doing in Texas and those states, right? We're hearing the same language. The only difference is this sister kept going. Where's our kept going fighters right now? Those who have the gall to keep going in the face of all of this. This is 20 years after she had to leave Memphis because of life threatened, she still went back down to Elaine, Arkansas. And so for people who don't understand geography, Elaine, Arkansas, where the massacre took place, is right across the bridge from Memphis. So where they tried to kill her, she went right back and still reported on the race riots. Not afraid, unbalked, and
unbossed. That's it. It's called courage. And Mary, the point that you were making about how some Black people always in every generation, you're gonna find some Black folks that's gonna do the caping for, they are the Black faces, as you named, in the wrong places, the wrong Black faces in them high places, because they have so much self-hate. And they want to be in the in crowd. They want to be invited to the parties. They want to make sure that they get the trinkets. Meanwhile, their people suffer. Ida B. Wells, she was a businesswoman. As we know, she had to raise her siblings. She went to Memphis to live with an aunt. And while we talking about Memphis. All right, what just happened to Tyree Nichols? But she went to Memphis when her parents died because of the yellow fever epidemic, and I believe it was her younger brother that died. She had other siblings that she had to take care of. She was very young, and then she went to Memphis to live with her aunt. And even that, born in 1862, want folks to understand this, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, 1865, born into slavery. And then think about her parents actually lived their lives, most of their lives, in slavery. But yet this woman, this magnificent woman, did not let any of what life threw at her keep her down. She used every single one of those life's lessons and she put that into energy towards lifting up Black people. One of the things that they did say in that clip, Mayor, and they were leaving the rest for us to say, that's what that was about. One of the things that they did point out was the fact that she wanted to see the Black experience elevated. I mean, she talked about the World Exposition and how there were no Black people there. And the only Black person that really had a stage there was the one and only Frederick Douglass. She critiqued that to say he wasn't even there because the United States put him there. He was there because Haiti brought him in. I mean, the irony of all of that, and the more things change, the more they stay the same.
My mind. And what's said does not need to be repeated.
Hey, you better say that. Now, although she never lived to see it come to pass, and it is the United States finally passing anti-lynching law, the Emmett Till anti-lynching law, or act to be more specific, of 2022, that passed the House of Representatives on February 28th of 2022. You heard me right. February 28th of 2022, and a companion bill passed in the United States Senate on March the 7th, 2022. It only took this country over 150 years, like 157 years, if we start counting from the year 1865. It only took them 157 years, man, that's all, to finally pass an anti-lynching law after all that Black people endured at the hands of domestic white terrorism in this country.
And if we're honest about it, sis, where are we now? If that's the track record of this country, we got a long time to go before we are anywhere close to equity, because their track record, they're slow. The molasses pace at which they are fighting for Black equity tells us, in your life, in my life, we might not see it, but we know that arc is real, and we're still trying to bend it.
Yeah, we are. We will never, talking about never give in, never give up, never give out, baby. We will not. And let's put up some of her powerful words. One of my favorite quotes from the one and only Ida B. Wells. In slave times, the Negro was kept subservient and submissive by the frequency and severity of the scourging. But with freedom, a new system of intimidation came into vogue. The Negro was not only whipped and scourged, he was killed. Woo, man. Hey, what just happened to Tyree? I mean, she's speaking to us today, like in this very, very moment. What she was laying down is that, yeah, Black folks had it bad because they were chattel. So they were whooped and demonized and denied of their humanity. But now, since freedom came, quote, air quotes, oh yeah, all of that, and they are killed. Ida B. Wells Barnett, the one and the only, and if only, and Mayor, I agree with you, we need more of her spirit from our people right now on this day. She laid the path for us. All we got to do is step in those footsteps and put some 21st century on it, and we are there.
Indeed. That's a powerful sister. I enjoy. One thing that's powerful to me about her was she don't get credit for being a co-founder of the NAACP, but she is, and she was radical in her thinking, even to the point that you and I talked about earlier when we said, that sister said every Black family should have a Winchester.
Right? Yes, she did. Yes, she did. To defend themselves against white supremacist violence. Let's underscore that and put an exclamation point on it. Yes, she did. That is our time for today. Mayor, the show was nothing but pure fire. We could go another 5 hours breaking it down, and we will have the opportunity to do that over and over again. And we're gonna do some explainer videos. I thank you, Mayor, so very much. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Can't wait to see you back here again. And to each and every one of you, we thank you for joining us. Please write a friend or a friend of me. Send them a text message, baby. Let them know they don't want to miss one of the hottest hours of their day. That is Unbossed. Now, you know what I want you to do about this time. I want you to keep the faith, always, always pushing towards the high mark. But with that faith and that push, baby, you got to keep the fight. Until next time.